we'd like to thank our sponsors. So this would obviously not help, we wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have our sponsors. So I'd like to thank our College Central Network, along with Mountain Sac and Live and Jackie Kennedy Harris and 06 Media. Thank you for, helping in this event. And some of these sponsors that we've had have obviously done it over a period of time and many years. So we appreciate your partnership.
I'm so happy to introduce our next speaker, Oscar Garcia. The last time I met him, he was presenting for us on a webinar from the beach in Mexico. He's the founder and chief empowerment officer for Aspire Consulting. And like I said, last month he presented in our webinar series. He was so high energy. We knew we had to have him back at our state conference. It's great to see Oscar. I'm turning it over to you. Go for it.
Thank you, Greg, Rosalina, and the whole leadership team, and everyone. Hello. I am still in Puerto Vallarta. I've been here for 5 weeks, and actually next week I'm going to be heading back to the San Francisco Bay Area. That's my home base. So let me just look at sharing my screen. Some scenes here. All right. And all right, folks, just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Screen, we can
thank
see
you.
it.
Okay, thank you, Rosalinda. At least someone is listening to me. Thank you, thank you. But everyone, I am very, very excited today to talk about how you can help first gens tell their story. And obviously, I'm coming to you from a perspective of telling your story so that you can get they can get an internship, a job, in their career. That's where I'm going to be coming from. I will leave some time at the end for some Q&A here. And then also I'm going to give you my contact information should you want to reach out to me as well afterwards. So let's just get started here. All right, really quick. This is the agenda. So first thing is I'm going to talk about, or I'm going to frame today's talk from the perspective of what are some of the top 6 soft skills that companies look for. Number 2, I'm going to lay out some of the foundational steps that are needed in order for a first gen to be able to tell their story. Number 3, creating your story. Once we've created a story, we got to promote it, right? I mean, like, what good does it do to be the most amazing person and then you don't let the world know, okay? And then lastly, number 5, like I said, I'm going to leave some time for some Q&A. Okay, first off, let me give you just a really quick background on myself so you can understand where I'm coming from and why it is that I share some of the things that I share. Because I'm going to tell you first off, okay, I do not have a coaching certificate. I don't have any other certificates. What I have is the scars of life, of overcoming life's challenges. And I'd rather, from myself, learn from a practitioner, someone that has those scars, than someone who has a certificate from UC Berkeley, which, by the way, that's where I graduated from, okay? So first off, I have transitioned careers 11 times. I'm 53 years old. This year, 30 years ago, I graduated from Berkeley. So those of you that are like STEM majors and really good at math, you can quickly figure out that every 2.5 years, I've kind of transitioned jobs. Now, the most I've ever been out of a job was 6 weeks. Why? Because early on in my career, this is before even the internet, I learned how to network, how to build and nourish relationships. I've also been hired without any experience. One of the things that I hear from young professional students and old farts like myself is like, oh my gosh, Oscar, but how can I apply for a position and have 0 experience? Well, I figured it out. I transitioned from tech to the chamber CEO. My competition had 25 years of chamber experience. She was the interim chamber CEO and the board loved her. And here comes knucklehead Oscar Garcia, didn't even know what a chamber of commerce did, and I got hired. Also, I've been in situations where positions have been created for me. Like, who doesn't want to be in that position, right? And then lastly, those of you that remember, okay, they're my peers, you remember what the traditional headhunter role is, where they go out and they identify people that are great at the industry, top in the industry, and they try to convince you to go take that new opportunity. Now, some of you might be thinking, like, good for you, Oscar, pat, pat, pat on the back, but let me tell you some of the challenges that I've overcome. First of all, English is my second language. Now, granted, I learned how to speak English in kindergarten, and the minute I learned how to speak English, I became my parents' translator until it passed away about 7 years ago. Also, been on the free and reduced lunch program when I was a kid. My arteries are probably clogged from eating that junky, greasy food as a kid. And also, in terms of, I was in remedial English classes. In high school, I had A's in English, and all of a sudden I go to UC Berkeley, and like, hey, Oscar, your English is horrible. Your writing, you need to take this bonehead remedial English class. Talk about imposter syndrome. Also, my parents, my dad had a first grade education, my mom middle school education. I couldn't even go to my parents in third grade and even ask them to help me with my worksheets because I couldn't even read English, let alone figure be able to help me. And then the last one, I know this is probably going to short circuit most of your brains. My natural personality is an introvert. Yes, you can teach an old dog new tricks. I'm proof of that too, all right? Here's the thing though, those of you that are introverts, you realize, right, because we have this misconception that anyone that does public speaking, and nowadays, and thank you for most of you having your cameras turned off because I'm used to seeing just black squares, but we have this misperception that if you're an extrovert, then, oh my gosh, you're great at public speaking. Can I tell you something? In my humble opinion, some of the greatest speakers are introverts, because at the end of the day, what do people want to feel? They want to feel heard. They want to feel understood. And as an introvert, we realize that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we use it proportionally. All right. So what are some of the soft skills that companies look for? LinkedIn, right? They did a research, spent a lot of time and money talking to companies, figuring out what some of the top soft skills were. And this is what LinkedIn came up with. Number 1, adaptability. Number 2, culture fit. Number 3, collaboration. Number 3, leadership. Number 4, growth potential, or excuse me, 5, growth potential. And number 6, prioritization. When I was looking at this, folks, I was thinking of my own story because I am a first-gen professional. And I'm like, wow, you know what? In my life, when I look back, growing up, I learned how to adapt these top 6 skills that companies look for. The challenge that most of us have, first gen, is we don't know how to translate our journey into a career story and then be able to put that on a cover letter, a resume, LinkedIn profile, informational interview. So let's talk about some of the foundational steps. Folks, I think it's really critical that we change the narrative. And I am guilty of this, and many of in education and professionals are guilty of this. I'm going to tell you something. In my opinion, the word first gen has a negative connotation. Why? Because first gen, we think of someone that is deficient, lacking. They lack certain skills, economically, learning, et cetera, and so forth. Let me ask you this. When Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, he was the first human to ever land on the moon. We never called him a first-gen moonlander. We call him a pioneer, because the word pioneer has a positive connotation. And so I am the first and only one in my family of 10 siblings that go off to college. Why am I not a pioneer? Why doesn't, mainstream society call us pioneers? Here's another one. Low income, right? Can I tell you something? Yes, I come from low income, but I've learned how to overcome so many challenges that I have a strong emotional intelligence. What do we call it? Those of us that come from the hood, street smarts. ESL, that's another negative. English as a sound, that's an ESL kid, right? Deficient. Can I tell you something? Back in 2019, I had the opportunity to travel to Panama through the US Embassy and do a series of trainings out there. And my contact said to me, Oscar, do you need a translator? And I kind of chuckled because, again, English or Spanish is my first language. And I said, no, actually, I don't. I am fully not just bilingual, but I'm bicultural. I can tell jokes in Spanish and people get it. So again, folks, we need to, and I would say I purposely use the word because you are out there talking to students, and I encourage you, start changing the narrative. Next, one of the foundational steps is to embrace our journey, and you help your students embrace their journey. What do I mean by this? My dad in Mexico was a butcher. And in the US, when I was in 5th grade, 11 years old. One day my dad says, hey son, I want you to get the buckets, knives, and towels ready. And I was like, what the heck? That was a start for about 6 to 7 years. Every Friday, we would go to the slaughterhouses out in the Bay Area. We would kill a pig, cow, a goat, and we would sell fresh meat. Totally illegal, no health permit. My parents got busted by the health department, okay? I had to translate for my parents. And as an 11-year-old, all of a sudden, I disappeared on the weekends from hanging out, playing with my friends. I was embarrassed, folks. That's my dad, my little brother in the middle, and me on the far right starting to grow some peach fuzz. Right? And again, my friends would be like, hey, Oscar, how come you don't hang out with us anymore? I'm like, I'm busy. Like, what are you doing, Oscar? I'm like, I'm just busy. No, I was embarrassed, like I said. All right. But when I look back today, folks, at this life experience, I learned so many valuable skills like a work ethic. While my friends, and some of you, because I'm seeing you, you're my peers, all right? While some of you back then were watching Saturday morning cartoons, I was already up at 7 a.m. Saturday working all weekend with my parents, a work ethic. I don't care if you are 12 years old or you are 80 years old, you are not going to outwork me. Secondly, I learned delayed gratification. Mom, Dad, I want that BMX bike. No, you can't have it, son. Why not? My friend has one. No, son, you can't have it. Oh, I would get so upset at them. And then they said, you know what, son? We need to take that money and then reinvest it into our business. Now, again, as a little kid, I didn't get it. But today, that's one of the things that's so critical in our career growth, right? In college, there were times I didn't go party because I had a midterm, I had a paper to write the next day. Again, I'm just sharing with you some of my own personal life experience, how today I embrace this and how I encourage you to help pull these stories out, these skills out, these positive skills from your students. See, folks, in terms of reframing the narrative, this is what I say, okay? And I believe we all go through crap in life. Crap stinks, but crap is also fertilizer to our dreams. How we react to the challenges in life, it is our choice, folks. I want to share something really quickly here, a short little video. You can turn up the volume here. Here. Folks, let me ask you a question. Has anyone ever made fun of you in life? Raise your hand, virtual hand, that is, or you can raise it. Okay. No? No one? Yes, one. Okay, a couple. Okay. The rest of you, I think I found the bullies. All right. Folks, I'm going to tell you something, right? Like growing up, thank you, everyone. Yes, thank you. Thank you for being right. It's constantly growing up. People make fun of my name. Oscar Mayer Wiener. I get accepted to Berkeley. Like I said here, oh, maybe it's because of affirmative action. Well, you know what? I don't even know. Maybe it is true, but I can tell you something that professors didn't have a different grading scale. Oscar affirmative action. So, you know, kind of like, I think that's what they call it, the honor system or the honors classes, right? They'd be like, oh, Oscar's affirmative action. So his B is going to be an A. Like when you're in honors class, you know, your B turns into an A. No, folks, I graduated on my own merit. And I posted this video on LinkedIn. Yes, that stuffy platform that most of you are embarrassed, or it's just a ghost town. You open it up and don't do anything with it. Why, folks, did I post it? Because one of the things that I encourage you to help your students is to embrace that vulnerability. Folks, vulnerability is one of the foundations to developing, to networking, to building and nourishing relationships. Once you connect with the person's heart by you opening up your heart first, that is the first foundation to growing that relationship. All right, folks. And I'm going to tell you something too. One of the best ways for you to help your students be vulnerable is by you being vulnerable. Don't ask a student to do something you're not willing to do. Now, to help you with the vulnerability, there are what I call the 3 R's. Number one, folks, be real. Think about someone you highly admire and respect, and they share some of the challenges that they've gone through, what are the lessons that they learned, and how they overcame those challenges. I don't know about you, but I've had some newfound respect for those people. Number 2, be relatable. Today, we have 5 generations in the workforce. The Gen Zs, my kids. My son next month graduates from college. My daughter's already been out for 3 years, okay? Gen Zs. And then we have older folks that are in their 60s, some of them even in their 70s, still working, and everyone else in between. Be relatable. I have this podcast that now it's going on over 2 years. And I'm going to tell you the largest, about almost 80, about 78% of my podcast audience is between the ages of 23 and 34 years of age. Yeah, I'm relating to these, young folks. And then lastly, number 3, be respectful. Be real, relatable, and respectful. All right, let's get into creating our story, helping your first gens create their story. This is an exercise that I walk people through, and I encourage you to do this with your students. Do it for yourself. Grab a piece of paper, computer, whatever it is that your phone, whatever, okay? And make 3 columns. Column on the left, call it life experiences. The middle is feelings, and on the right, skills. And I'm going to use myself as an example. So a life experience. I shared with you family business. How did I feel? I shared with you that I was embarrassed about that. What is a skill? One of the skills that I learned, work ethic. Now, the reason why I have, for example, in the middle, feelings here is because I think it's important that we own some of these yucky feelings and stop letting the feelings continue to own us. Next example, I mentioned to you that at UC Berkeley, I was in remedial English class. How did I feel? Inferior, that imposter syndrome. What is a skill that I learned? I learned how to be coachable because I was not going to throw in the towel. I started talking to my professor, tutors, my floor mates. I mean, anyone that could help me improve my writing, I was like all ears, coachable. When I worked in the tech industry, I got laid off a bunch of times. I felt anxiety. My family was young, right? And providing for them financially and so forth. But a skill that I learned, networking. And you can see I can go on and on with these examples. But it's also this exercise helps reframe that narrative that I've been telling you about. So I encourage you to walk your students, you yourself go through some of these, this exercise here. Next, we got to create our story. And there are 5 parts to our story. The first one is, and I do a complete different workshop on your why, your professional brand, et cetera, and so forth. But I'm just going to keep it really simple here. First part is why. Why do you do what you do? Why does your student do what he or she does? Now, there's typically 2 types of why. There's a personal why. Like, for example, in my case, my personal why is I love helping other people dream bigger. I love inspiring them, and I love serving them. That's on a personal level. But most of you don't care about that. You want to know what's in it for you. Companies want to know what's in it for them. So the second why, and this is the why that I encourage you to put on your story, is what's in it for them, for others, for the company. And in my case, my why, what's in it for you and my clients and those that I serve, is I empower you so opportunities come to you. You see how that has to do about you and not me. Number two, what are some of your personality traits? List them. Number three, talk about your career journey thus far. When I'm working with students, oftentimes, you know, they're like, well, but gosh, I've been, I don't know, been babysitting my, you know, my little brother and cousins, or, you know, if it was me, oh, I'm having my parents' family business, or maybe, I don't know, working at Starbucks or a server or whatever. And they diminish that experience. I'm like, no, 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 talk about that. That's okay. And I help them learn how to be able to translate that story into a way where they can, from a career perspective. Now, also, there are times when a young student, young professional really has a hard time. And in that case, what I tell them is talk about your vision. Where do you want to go? What do you want to accomplish? And I'm going to show you in a minute here an example of that. Number four, any awards or recognition. And then lastly, number five, talk about that position that you're interested in, the company, and even the industry. Okay, so these are the 5 parts to the story. Let me show you an example of how you can be highly accomplished, very educational, but you could be super boring, all right? And like, that's not gonna cut it. This person here, all right, graduated, this is actual profile. That's not his picture or anything, and you know, I covered the name and so forth, but this person graduated Stanford University, Boston University, and in his LinkedIn profile, he says, educator, teacher, administrator, and manager consultant with experience in board governance, nonprofit, corporate, international business development, public and private higher education. Like, stop, please, stop. Obviously, this person, like I said, is highly accomplished, but this person is the most boring person. If we were sitting at Starbucks and I'm like, hey, John Doe, nice to meet you. So tell me about yourself. And John Doe starts talking to me like this, I'd be like, dude, like I wouldn't say it to him, okay, because I'm not like that, okay? But I'd be in my mind, I'd be like, dude, what's wrong with you? Can't you just talk normal? Let me show an example here, folks, of Angelica. So first of all, Angelica wants to be a college professor. She states she's an aspiring professor of ethnic studies. And she says, I am a student at California State University of Monterey Bay who aspires to one day become a professor of ethnic studies. My goal as a future educator is to help create an engaging, creative, and strong educational foundation for future generations. My passion for education has been an ongoing cause that has led me to volunteer for organizations such as Mesa La Comunidad and the City of Mountain View's Youth Advisory Committee. By pursuing my passion for academia, I hope to expand my horizons and gain more insight into a world of limitless possibilities. Folks, again, she's not a college professor, but she's selling her vision. I don't know about you, but if she was to reach out to me, however it is, okay, email, text, social media, whatever, and I look at her story, she shares this with me, 2 things will come out. Number one, I'm being like, damn, thank God I'm not competing with her because she would kick my butt. Number 2 would be like, she knows what she wants. She's on point, on purpose. Let me show you another example, folks, of just sharing your story. Marco Espino, okay? He worked at McDonald's and he says, overdue life update. I became a first-generation Latino college graduate. For those of you that don't know, I have a low-income Mexican immigrant background. Only 30% of Chicago public schools, Latino high school males are projected to obtain a bachelor's degree within 10 years. I beat the odds and I graduated from top 10 universities. And see, he didn't just post a picture of his graduation, which I'm not opposed to it, but he also added a picture of McDonald's where he works, folks. You see the power of sharing your first gen story? Look down below how many engagements and almost 30,000 and over 1,600 comments. Here's another one, Dorothy Corbett. I'm a first generation college student from a family that has never been above the poverty line. During my time at Kennesaw State University, I've had 1 million bumps in the road, 1,000 heartaches, and hundreds of hours spent working any job paying $9 an hour. Again, sharing a little bit of her first gen story here. Let's talk about now promoting our story, folks. So what I share with folks, with students is, quite frankly, there's really 3 main formats, basic formats of sharing our story. Number 1 is written. You can write a post, you can write an article, blog, etc. Number 2, video. Create a video, okay? Turn on your phone and all that type of stuff. And number 3, audio, like for example, podcasts. These are really the 3 main formats. What I also encourage students is pick and start with the format that you feel the most comfortable. I'm a lazy writer. So for me, audio or video, that's going to be. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Video is has been for me one of the hardest things to do. And I think for a lot of people, because we're in front of the camera, this and that, and so forth. I got to tell you too, one thing that I figured out, okay, early on, it's like, oh my gosh, I can edit this video a gazillion times until I'm happy with it. All right. But this is 3 story format. Let me share with you how I've taken my career story and shared it. This is my website. You go on to my website, this is exactly what's on there. You go to most people's website, and how do they lead? They lead with like, Oscar Garcia, how's a BA from, top public university in the world, UC Berkeley, founder, because I have a kid, like, really, whatever. This is me. Growing up, I was shy and introvert. As soon as I learned how to speak English, I became my parents' translator, et cetera, and so forth. And on the right, I talk about today. I'm an introvert turned international speaker and trainer. I have given over 500 seminars and trained more than 20,000 professionals across 5 continents. Folks, like, by me sharing the story and doing it in a very vulnerable way, I get oftentimes people that come to me, first of all, they're like, Oscar, I can't believe you're an introvert. Really? Number 2, I sometimes get people say, you know what, Oscar, I can totally relate to your story. Wow. And that's part of what finding a job, a career, et cetera, is eventually connecting again with the interviewer, with the company, with the culture of the company, all that type of stuff. And I have it right there, folks, on my website, homepage, front and center. My podcast, there's an example. I share some of my stories. In this first episode, why I launched Career Talk with OG. Again, very personal that I get in there. Here's another example. Jenny Lopez, good friend of mine, love her to death. She is a top senior recruiter at Eli Lilly company, pharmaceutical company, amazing company, obviously. But she also has, call it her side hustle, side business, or whatever you want to call it. And she shares some of her story on her personal website here as well. All right. Final thoughts. I want to share with you this that I shared not that long ago, actually, on LinkedIn. And I said it's a positive attributes of being a first gen. First gen, what does it stand for? The F stands for fear. We're the first in our family to do many things. We experience fear, yet we embrace it. I stands for initiative. We act on opportunities in spite of what others do or don't do. My high school counselor, Oscar, you shouldn't apply to UC Berkeley because you're not going to get into it. Well, you know what? She motivated me because I just walked out of her office and I'm like, I'm going to show her. R, resilient. We get up more times than we fall. S, servant attitude. We lead with our heart. T for tenacity. We're relentless in the pursuit of our dreams. G, gratitude. We don't forget where we come from, and we are thankful for everyone's support. I don't believe there's anyone that's self-made. I am not self-made. I am so grateful for many nonprofits, teachers, my parents, family that believe in me and supported me. E, empower others. We have one hand up and one hand down to bring others along. And then N is no is yes. Our ears hear no, but our heart acts with yes, I can. That's what first gen is, folks. Here's my contact information. You're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you are on Instagram, follow us on Instagram. If you like to listen to some funny, cool, educational, informative podcasts, I just talks nothing, just authentic here, raw. Follow me on Career Talk with OG, folks. Also, we have a YouTube channel on the right. You can see my email address. Those of you that are super introvert, I even include my website. You can go check it out. All right. I'm going to open it up right now to questions. I don't know, Greg, if I should turn it over to you or who.
Yeah, thank you. I see some hands up. I'm not sure if Arnita, Sarah, or Jaime, but I'm going to leave it to you, Greg. I just want to know that their hands are up. So I don't know if they're up from earlier or if they have a question.
Yeah, they were up from earlier.
All right. Any questions? Thank you for putting the link down there. Oscar, appreciate it. How exciting. And it's true, I know on a personal level, hearing, be genuine, tell the truth, and be real. It's so important. At the end of the day, you know, authenticity, you know, is important. And the reality is a lot of times people can tell when you're not being authentic. So why be authentic? Why not be authentic, right? You know, so
Yeah. Yes, yes.
so feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question for Oscar. Any questions?
I
Any
do.
questions?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Me?
Yes.
Okay. Oscar, I'm a fanatic for acronyms or for following a certain format for alphabets. Your R really spoke to me. It resonated with me. You notice I'm using R's. But I think Rosalinda, what Oscar just said, is this going to be on PowerPoint? Because I definitely want to. I couldn't write it down when he was doing it because I was so just enthralled with it. So Oscar, you really, how you broke it down and made it applicable. Thank you so much. Wait, let me just hold on. Let me give you a, because I'm writing it down. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Your story was so touching, real, and it just ignited again what I'm here for the students, to pass that on to the students. So thank you for your R's. I am really
Thank you.
appreciative.
Yeah,
Thank
and the
you.
great thing is, just so you know, he works with different colleges throughout the state and even with the County Office of Education, helping individuals, students, doing workshops for the students, even doing workshops for staff. So something you may want to consider for all of you, actually, if you're interested in bringing them on down to your campus, to your school site, to do staff development or do something directly with the students or do some workshops. It's a great idea, something to consider. And yeah, the topics are great. All our speakers are giving us the PowerPoint, and then the videos of today's session will be posted on our website as well. And a big shout out to Oscar because he is volunteering his time. He is a paid speaker, but he is volunteering, one of our sponsors volunteering his time to be here today. So being an international speaker, being busy all the time, I know that you had to juggle your schedule to be here today. Just so everybody knows a little bit of background, he had other things planned, and so we had to ask if he would be willing to accommodate, and our schedule was kind of fixed, and so we had him down for yesterday, and so yesterday for tomorrow, but then we had some conflict in scheduling and stuff, and we asked him, can you come today? And he's like, I got something. But you know what, he said CPA is so important. He goes, let me see what I could do. He called me back, I want to say shortly after, maybe about an hour or two later, and says, look, I juggled some stuff around, I'll be there, count on me. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. So thank you for that, Oscar, because I know that a lot of people don't know a lot of the behind the scenes that you do and what's important. And we thank you for making California Placement Association important to you, so you could be here for all of us today. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. No, thank you. Thank you. I love what all of you are doing. You don't have an easy job. It's tough and it's been challenging, especially these last few years with the pandemic. But I just know that every little thing that all of you do, you're making a difference in the lives of our students. And so thank you.
Oscar, we'd love to thank you once again. I think Rosalinda kind of mentioned it. All the time and effort that you put into this. Your story is awesome. It's amazing. Learned a lot, picked up a lot of things, and just want to thank you for your time for being here today, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much.
Gracias. And I'm giving you a standing ovation.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for the gift of time. So next year we will be March 1st through the 3rd, 2023 at the Doubletree Hilton at the Golf Resort in Palm Springs. We look forward to seeing you there. Think about it, save the date, start mentioning it, and plan it on your fiscal budget for next year so that we can see you live and in person.